worried, so when I pull this camera up, when I pick it up, I just don't want any of this to fall. Right.
All right, everything look okay with that, basically? Awesome. All right, sounds good. Thank you. Don, what's going on, man? How are you? I'm on the right face, yeah. So on that side, yeah, he's on this.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. It's a beautiful day to have an event like this, and we're in a beautiful place, so thank you for being here first and foremost. We would also like to, first off, my name is George Lepiniotis. I'm an attorney with Krieg DeVault at our Mishawaka office. We are very proud and privileged to be sponsoring tonight's event, along with the Horton Group and, of course, the South Bend Regional Chamber of Commerce. As many of you know, we are living under very different times, so we appreciate all of your efforts to help protect each other and the governor. That we are under specific rules tonight by the governor and his staff that we wear masks when he comes in, so we would appreciate your cooperation in that regard. I guess he has an important job, and so we don't want him to get sick. You know, we are, at Krieg DeVault, we're a business-focused law firm where we offer full services, but we also are very keenly aware of the business climate here in the state. I think we're going to get into that today, and Jeff is going to talk more with the governor about Indiana business and how COVID has impacted it, and maybe some of the things that are coming up on the horizon. We're also pleased to have our co-sponsors Horton here, as I said. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the man who's going to introduce the governor. So one of our local luminaries, Tim Sexton, Vice President of Public Affairs at the University of Notre Dame. Tim, the mic is yours.
Thank you, George. It's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce our state's 51st governor, Eric Holcomb. A lifelong Hoosier, he is a veteran of the United States Navy. Previously, he was lieutenant governor and was a former state chairman of the Indiana Republican Party. In his efforts to move our state forward, he's been active in bringing the world to Indiana, visiting numerous countries around the globe to incentivize them to relocate to Indiana. His next-level agenda continues to focus on jobs, economic growth, health, government service, and infrastructure. In March, he implemented the Back on Track plan to keep Hoosiers safe and businesses back open during this pandemic. On behalf of the South Bend Elkhart region, I would like to thank the governor. I'm hoping he can hear me out there in the hallway, but thank the governor for keeping an active eye on the northern part of the state. We greatly appreciate that and look forward to continuing to work with him in the future. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Eric Holcomb.
I think so. Well, good afternoon, Governor. We're thrilled that you could join us today.
It's a beautiful day.
Good. I do have a small token of our appreciation, just some goodies from northern Indiana that you can take back with you. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget about that later. You don't have to wear the stocking cap today.
Yeah.
Sure, yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Oh, wonderful. I will devour these.
All right.
Thank you. And
sounds good.
And wear with pride.
There you go. Good. Well,
Thank you.
Governor, we're grateful to have you here. Thank you. You've been such a terrific friend to northern Indiana, and we really appreciate the priority you've made to improving the entire state of Indiana. You've been a frequent guest up here and a great friend to me and to the chamber, and we're really grateful for that. And so appreciate the chance to just sit down and have some conversation and let our audience know a little bit about some of the things that are going on in and around the state. So I got some hard questions.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
There is one or two things, right? We may hit on them, and maybe we'll go there first. Obviously things are a little bit different these days with COVID-19 and the pandemic, and you've been in the middle of so much of the conversation with all the experts, and you have guided the state's efforts to really help minimize the spread and keep people safe, and we're really grateful for that. And wonder if, obviously we see and read the news, but we'd like just sort of maybe some perspective from you from the front lines, things that that you want to tell us about the COVID effort and things that we as business people should be doing to help get Indiana where it needs to go.
Critically important, obviously, the business community's role in not just our recovery, but crossing the bridge to the other side. And I should start with just an expression of gratitude for everything that everyone's done, whatever walk you find yourself on. Truly, we are all in this together. That's not just rhetorical. It's actually, we're dependent on that fact. And I've been saying lately that I've always been a proud Hoosier, but I've just never been prouder to be going through this. 92 different counties, small, large cities and towns, the business community, the nonprofit, the private sector, all coming together. Obviously, this has been from the very outset a real balance of making sure we're paying attention to safety first, our lives, and then our livelihoods. They're also dependent on one another, our health and our well-being. And so therefore the protocols and how we adjust, the changes that we have to make in our daily routines and our daily lives matter, and they all add up. And so for that very reason, the private sector has just been critically important. I'm on the phone every day with employers and employees all over the state of Indiana, and I often hear, and I share this, I often hear that at work or at school is the safest place individuals are. It's once they leave those settings or venues that sometimes we let our guard down and assume we just won't, the odds are lower for some reason. And that's just not the case. And so to the extent that the private sector, your question, to the extent that the private sector can underscore and encourage those, safe protocols, masking up, physical distancing, good hygiene, etc., that's going to help us go a long way. Because the state of Indiana, we're thankfully not in the same position we were in February or March. Obviously, our networks are strengthened, our hospital networks, our communication, our distribution channels, our PPE resources and inventory. And so managing our way through this is critically important. And obviously, it's a partnership, kind of a three-way partnership between government, all levels, local, state, federal, nonprofit sector, and the private sector.
Great. Well, thank you, Governor. And again, thank you for your leadership on that. We know
We are in an armory. We may be.
Whoops.
Got some incoming.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, when I assess this and look out, pre-COVID, post-COVID, during COVID, it's all about making sure that your employee and your customer confidence is high. True, again, before COVID. And so all those things that you can do to make sure that confidence that it is a safe place, whether to work or to shop, to go, to experience, to live, work, and play. Those things matter, and they add up.
Great. Thank you, Governor. And we're working on the sound thing. Apologize for the interference we're getting there. We'll get that fixed here in a second.
I'll play through.
Yep. All right. So Governor, let's maybe take a step back real quick and go pre-pandemic. And so Indiana's humming, right? I mean,
take me there, Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. So things are going well. Indiana is the envy of other states. We've got a big budget, surplus. We're a choice destination for people doing projects around the country, and obviously we want to be there again. Talk a little bit about this effort to sort of pick up on the progress that we had before and build on this going forward.
It's happening, and I think that's so important for our soul and spirit and psyche and all the above, that we do in fact share the good news. And there is a lot of good news going on. That doesn't mean we ignore the challenges that we're facing. But that does mean that we not just celebrate, that we continue to do the things that are working. Obviously, 3 years and 2 months into this, during my term, the state of Indiana was, like you say, full steam ahead. We were setting records, we were breaking records that we just set, and a lot of momentum. I will say, though, to a certain extent, that hasn't, many things have paused, but it hasn't slowed down. And I will tell you that our competition is still fierce out there, and there are folks that are making good decisions, and there are folks that are making not so good decisions. That still is our competition. So if, just as a frame of reference, or to put this in context, to use one example, and we could use many different examples, many different fronts. In 2016, through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, a good year, momentum, solid year, 2016. We did, through the IEDC, 20,320 new job commitments. This year, to date, last week, we were already north of 23,000 new job commitments. $4.5 billion in CapEx that's coming in the state of Indiana during a global pandemic. People all over the world, we're doing a lot more 2 a.m. phone calls right now because we're not up in the air. We're not in the Netherlands. We're not in Tel Aviv. We're not in Beijing or Tokyo. We normally would be. Now we're doing phone calls. Now we're talking with not just businesses, but consulate generals on the phone. And so we're playing through, and usually the response that we get is, you're the only one doing this. Now that's not completely accurate. There are some others because we're competing against them. But for the number of jobs, I've never seen a fourth quarter pipeline more full than this year. So, folks who are making investments are looking long-term in these decisions that they're making right now, and they're looking for safe and secure places to invest. Vibrant locations, like when you pull into South Bend, there's a sense of energy that you can kind of feed off of, and you can feel it. You don't just see it, the renaissance that's occurred, but you feel it. And so capital will find that, and it is finding the state of Indiana. And folks are now, making these comparisons. And so when you look at all these indicators that we see, our revenue report, September revenue report will come out here if it's not out now. Maybe I'll make news right now and beat them to it, but it will show a respectable report for September. We're down about, from the forecast done back in December, so pre-COVID, we're down about 1% in terms of our revenue coming in September. We're down about 5% in terms of this September compared to last. And last September was a very strong month. So you can see that it's a respectable showing, and we are coming back. When you look at our unemployment numbers, et cetera, Wall Street Journal on Monday just had a map of the United States and showed Indiana as one of the top 5 states of people going back to work. So when you go safely, by the way, so when you go from adjusted up unemployment rate of 17.5, and we're now down to 6.4. We started at 3.2, but so we went like this. But getting back to work is critically important if we're going to continue to be able to address other issues like education, infant mortality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
That's all right.
I just wonder if that's me. It is me.
Not exactly sure. I think it's a lavalier mic you have on. So if you want to.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right. I think we got you.
Give the man a hand.
Am I still? Can you still hear me?
We lost me.
We're going to lateral the microphone back and forth.
Apparently it's you they wanted to hear anyway, I guess. I don't know what happened here. So who knew? So I'd like to expand on that point for just a second. So obviously the economies of every state and community have been hit hard. Everybody is competing for those jobs, and once those land in their areas. Just speak a little bit to the Indiana advantage and what some of those things are that differentiate us from some of those other states who want that same investment that the state is seeking.
Gonna do this little soft shoe routine, me and you together.
Yeah.
Well, it's a long list, but I'll try to narrow it down to the kind of the issues that we hear most about when we're out taking Indiana to the world or trying to bring the world back to Indiana. That's obviously the investments that we're making in people. Obviously, top of mind is, if I locate there in Indiana, will you be able to supply me with a workforce so that I can grow at my determined scale and pace? So investing in people, our health and well-being, as I just said. the cost of doing business. You know, is the math going to work for me? The tax, the regulatory environment, et cetera, et cetera. And then the infrastructure, the ability to get their products to and from the marketplace, wherever that ultimate destination may be. The bonus that factors into the conversation, every conversation now, is quality of place, quality of life. And this is often kind of that X factor where you quickly get to how much are you investing in where my employees are going to call home? What access to amenities do they have? How does it stand out? This is where we are. This is the Indiana advantage right now. Our phone is ringing off the hook, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone. I'm rooting for everyone across America, but our phone is ringing off the hook from different locations that are seeking what we have, and that is a menu of options: rural, urban, suburban. You can live in South Bend, you can work in South Bend, and you can live in the country, or vice versa. And so having that mix, having that diversity, we're starting to hear from not just CEOs, we're hearing from individuals. And this is where all three of those things, investing in our people, investing in our infrastructure, investing in our ecosystem, all matter, because we're thinking about this very strategically, whether it's 31 in that corridor or whether it's 2 rail projects. $1.4 billion we're investing in 2 rail projects coming out of the nation, one of the nation's top 3 economies. And when you can cut a commute that ultimately will get over here, this is a big, big deal. So we're starting to get people that are calling us saying, wait a second, you're telling me I can move to Ogden Dunes or South Bend or Valparaiso? My property taxes are going to be more in Illinois than my mortgage in Indiana? Like, I can do that kind of math. And so those, infrastructure investments, same thing coming out of Louisville. There's a migration coming up north out of Louisville into Clark County. And so it matters, those infrastructure investments. So it's not just one thing, obviously. It is a menu that is really propelling the state of Indiana, and it's the continuity. It's that commitment to those basics, and then following up, not just talking about it.
Great, thank you, Governor. So you touched briefly on the finances, the sound financial position. Obviously, Indiana had a nice budget surplus in case a rainy day happened and such. And there's been a lot made about how this pandemic impacts state and local governments and such. So can you talk just briefly about sort of the planning, as the CEO of the state, the work you're doing to sort of help navigate what could be some challenging financial times ahead?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, they are challenging, obviously, but 2008, 2009 was challenging. We see these cycles. This one is somewhat unprecedented because of the health condition and the spread and the therapeutics and vaccine need that factor into that. So there's still that backdrop that's there that makes this unique. Although we are finding out how to manage our way through this, even with such great loss and heartache. What the state of Indiana has sought to do is, again, balance lives and livelihoods. Thank goodness we did have a savings account for that rainy day. Thank goodness we were fixing the roof when the sun was shining. Because I do talk to other governors on a very frequent basis. We're not all in the same position today or 2 years ago. We have made difficult decisions. We have had to pause certain projects and investments that I would have loved to have gone forward with. We have had to stop. We have had to cut. I've had to go to every agency and say, I know you were cut to the bone before, and I know you were doing a great job, but we got to find 15% more somewhere. And so we've kind of taken a multi-front approach to this, and we've said we're going to have to manage our way through it, and that means we're going to have to cut, and we're going to have to grow. And so that's why we've kept our head down, been very kind of quiet about it. We're not, up in the air and all over the world, but we are all over the world. And so those growth numbers bode well. And when you look at single-family home, building permits, when you look at home sales, when you look at RV sales, when you look at, what we do, this bodes well for our economy in the future. And I will say that there are other states that aren't in that position because they didn't they didn't sail into this storm with a ship as strong as Indiana has.
Thank you. You introduced infrastructure, and I'd like to spend just another second talking about it. First, on behalf of the region, saying thank you for the commitment from the state on the South Shore. As you mentioned, that's been a big local priority as well, and the fact that it comes here and will make that trip quicker, we think really benefits our region, probably as much or more than even the closer you get to Chicago, and so we really like that and know that it couldn't have happened without a great partnership from the state. Similar with things like US 31, where it's brought us closer to Indianapolis, and we're really grateful for that. Obviously, those are some big ticket items. You have a lot of big ticket items on your next level, taking our roads to the next level, and so can you speak to a second about full speed ahead on those? Should we expect timeline impacts on those? Just sort of maybe the state of some of those key infrastructure projects amidst sort of the challenges that you may face the next few months.
Yeah, we are full steam ahead, and I don't say that cavalierly. That we did. You probably sat back in your chair. Maybe the mayor here did too, as well. When we mentioned that we were going to pause on the community crossings program, that is a wildly popular program where the state and local communities partner together on road projects in small towns and big cities. We were able to, because our revenues were coming back online, put that program, full speed ahead and give it the green light to move forward. That should be an indicator that these projects, transformational projects, like you mentioned, like 30, like 20, like 31, like 69, are moving forward. And so when you think about on 31, I mean, again, this is a huge corridor of opportunity for the state of Indiana and for the country for that matter. But having AM General, having Grissom, having Indianapolis, having Notre Dame, this constellation of entities that are all contributing to not just national security, but to our local economies in relatively close proximity to one another. That's real synergy when we harness that and tap into that. And so that's why yes, I like to be able to drive up to Notre Dame football games, quicker and put it on cruise control and not take it off. And we got 6 interchanges to deal with and some railroad crossings, et cetera. And we're doing that. So those are still in the plan, still moving forward. 236, if you're familiar with Hamilton County, 236 and 276th Street, 2 interchanges that are happening. There's some in Miami County, Fulton, Marshall, 6 total, signals that need to be removed, and then the railroad and a flasher, a blinker. But yeah, that's absolutely, if we're going to realize that corridor's true potential, and there's a lot of good news coming yet this year in terms of not just our infrastructure projects. You'll see some folks from the U.S. Department of Transportation later this month on the ground in the state of Indiana. We're also I've talked a lot about hypersonics and microelectronics in terms of the future of the state of Indiana and tripling our defense investment, capturing that. That sounds like a bold statement. I meant it. We're on the road to doing that. But it's going to require us to make sure that we continue to make those investments, not just roads, but in broadband internet connections as well, up and down various corridors throughout the state of Indiana. But they're not being sacrificed right now because of COVID-19.
Good. Thank you, Governor, and thanks again for the priority on this. We're grateful for the state has made a $1 billion investment already in US 31, and that's not forgotten here. We're really grateful for the priority that your predecessors and you have made of that roadway. You mentioned briefly talent, and I'd like to go back to the talent discussion. It seems like there's been a big focus in the last year on the attraction and retention of talent to Indiana, and obviously all the business people sitting in front of you would probably tell you that that's one of their biggest challenges, and they want some some glue. How do we keep people in Indiana? That kind of stuff. So we're a 21st century talent region now. We've really worked close with many of your teammates down at the State House, but just talk in general about kind of what's happening in that space and the steps that state is taking to not only retain the talent that grows up here, but to also attract talent from other parts of the country.
Yeah, perfect place to talk about this, and I don't say this because Tim Sexton is in the house, but when I think about our kind of an inspiring history, and we were together, boy, that was 2017. I didn't go on the full 250 miles plus of the trek from Vincennes to South Bend, but Father Soren, when he set off, I mean, ultimately this was a place where vocation was central to the whole purpose and mission and being a powerful force for good, as Father Jenkins and Tim explained to me at the inception, and still true today, that focus on vocation. And it has to start. It was very early on back in the day, and we shouldn't ever get too far from that. And so I'm talking about pre-K. I'm talking about all through K through 12. I'm talking about having the programs that blend or a seamless transition from one station in life to the next as you're exploring and engaging in programs. So earn and learn programs and mentorships and internships. Those make a huge difference. And then what we've seen have really become wildly popular, and it's because it's kind of cut the bureaucracy out of it, is direct support to employers and employees through the Workforce Training Grant, through the Employer Training Grant, or Workforce Ready Grant. And so that's getting dollars to employers and to employees to skill up. We moved 50 million, but 37 million more during COVID that we've gone through, that thousands of people have gone and gotten credentials, and so they can get, or certificates. And so what we need to do more of is that. And we've proven, the state of Indiana, I got a call when I said I'm moving $50 million over in the workforce space. I got a call from another governor, Rhode Island, Gina in Rhode Island, who is passionate about this front just as I am. And she said, are you serious? Are you moving more dollars into workforce development right now? So I thought, yeah, well, here's the press release. It's going out. This isn't rhetoric. We've gone through that. And it's not we've gone through it, it's the business community has gone through it and skilled folks up, and it's making a huge difference. So we need to do more of responding to the need so that someone, my general thinking about this is, as someone's going to Ivy Tech or Vincennes University or through a Work One program, they're wearing a logo of where they're going to or already are working. And then we can say to the RV industry or life sciences or defense or construction or advanced manufacturing, et cetera, at large, what is it that you need? You need to hire 700 people? Okay, here's what the state of Indiana will do. We'll connect your company with the workforce development program that will get you the credentials that you need, the people that you need, and then deliver those people to your doorstep. So it's that kind of creative thinking that's going to make the difference, and is making a difference, quite frankly, across our state, whether it's in South Bend or in Richmond, where I was Monday, doing the same thing with HVAC company.
Great, thank you, Governor, and our employers out here are grateful for those efforts. It remains really critical and a very top priority for us. So I'm also thinking a little bit about this pipeline of workers, and I'm thinking about K-12 and sort of what happens there. Obviously, it's I think the biggest piece of your budget. We could probably talk for hours about kind of what's happening in that space. But can you maybe just give us a brief update on kind of the K-12 space and kind of what's happening there from a state level?
I promise you, I've been smiling about all these questions. I am smiling. This is a big deal, and it's a big, it is the foundation. Obviously, when I've mentioned health and well-being twice now already, but that well-being is dependent on getting a good education, and obviously the state of Indiana, predates me. I mean, we have devoted over half of our budget to education, rightly so. It's our number one priority. When you then take out our Medicaid spend and you take out our DCS, Department of Child Services, you're left with, in that remaining half, or 48, 49%, you're left with only about a third of that half. Awkward way of saying it. But so we really do devote the majority of our budget to educating our youth and skilling them up post-secondary on top of that. So that will continue to be reflected in our budgets, that priority. Since I was sworn in, we've increased that funding $1.6 billion. Important to say that because, again, not happening across the country. Important to say that we were able to, even during COVID today, we were able to protect those increases in our K through 12 space, meaning we want to make sure that continuity continues. And so we'll continue to make sure going into this next budget session, the General Assembly, and the governor's office, I'm confident we'll continue to make sure that remains a number one priority. Also in terms of, and I'm not just talking about the foundational dollars or the complexity index, but, safety contributions, counselor contributions, financial, funding contributions, making sure that we're connecting students and teachers to the devices, that connectivity that they need, especially in a time like this when telework and telehealth and teleeducation have become so important, and having that hybrid, those options in class instruction. So depending on where COVID leads us, that's why we moved $61 million to say, how can we help schools, teachers, parents, kids continue to learn so we don't experience this huge gap on the other side of this, or it be prolonged because of a lack of financial commitment, quite frankly. So that will continue to be. This is the game change. It's the foundation for everything that we do. And I'm not saying this because I'm the son of a former career public school teacher. I've shared with you, I think, Jeff, that I learned life was not going to be fair when I had my mom as a teacher in third grade. But I just say this, that what we don't spend now, we often spend more later. And it has to be strategically deployed, and there has to be partnerships. And this is what's exciting about the state of Indiana, as we continue to not just encourage, but build. You all have up here, and Elkhart, et cetera, and in Jay County. There's so many good examples of seamless transitions that are occurring because students are finding out what they're passionate about. And so when they're prepared to go to the military or go to work or go to a 2-year or a 4-year or, become Rudy, and go to Notre Dame, this is all possible here if we're doing our part and we're truly a partner at the state.
Governor, we're nearing the end of our time. And I think any final word, final thought that you want to share with us, final message that you want folks as they leave today to take with them?
Yes, I actually do have a couple. I'll close where I started, and that is just to thank each and every one of you for what you're doing. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's very inspiring. I'm very proud of the team that we've assembled. I used to say I have a fave 5 on my cell phone of doctors now, which I wouldn't have imagined to have, but it's actually a lot more than 5. And these folks have the head and heart and desire for this type of service for this moment. And it only works when we are partnering together, all sectors, nonprofit, private, and government, all levels. There are individuals that have stepped forward, not just this year, but throughout their lives. And it truly gives me honor to be able to recognize individuals that have devoted their lives to making their communities better. And that can be in different capacities, but you all are fortunate to have one such who is truly the best among us, who devoted, there's not a lot of people that have devoted decades, as in 4, to bettering their community, who we have all come to rely on in the community, maybe in the state through different board and commission service, or even nationally look to. And then to have had the opportunity to plan not 1, but 2 anniversaries, the 25th and 50th anniversary of the St. Joseph, of the Parks Department, that is a phenomenal thing. And so I just wanted, in front of all of her peers, recognize Evie Kirkwood as Indiana's newest Sagamore of the Wabash, the highest honor Evie could receive. Now you know why we're all here, Evie.
Governor, thank you so much for your remarks today. We're really grateful for that. How about a round of applause again for Governor Eric Holcomb? Great. I'm going to invite Tom Housen from the Horton Group up for some final words here. Tom?
Thanks, Jeff. What a great conversation. Thank you, Governor, for being here, and Jeff for the great work that you do. Tom Housen with the Horton Group, and I want to say this is an easy sponsorship for us. We have so many good things going on in Indiana, and I could not be more thankful for both Jeff and our governor, not just at this time, but always. So thank you both for all that you do. The challenge to all of us is to continue to support the Chamber, both locally on a statewide basis and on a national basis, so that we can continue to thrive in our businesses and our work in this great state. So thank you all. Thank both of you again. As Horton, we are so glad to help and support in this event.
All right, well, that concludes our program today. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your continued support of the Chamber. We'll work to stay connected. We're hoping that as things get better, we can continue to gather like this. We appreciate you following safe practices today, and we look forward to connecting with you again here in the future.